Okay, so here we are again. My name's Eloisa Ramos, and I am here with my friends Teresa and
Hi.
Connie. Hi, and my daughter Sonia. And we are studying the text of A Course in Miracles. We're on chapter 4, and we are doing the introduction, the illusions of the ego. So let me just go back to that section here. So it's text chapter 4. And it's the introduction here. Oh, I wonder. Oh, here we go. Introduction. Okay. Paragraph 1. The Bible says that you should go with a brother twice as far as he asks. It certainly does not suggest that you set him back on his journey. Devotion to a brother cannot set you back either. It can lead only to mutual progress. The result of genuine devotion is inspiration, a word which properly understood is the opposite of fatigue. To be fatigued is to be dispirited, but to be inspired is to be in the spirit. To be egocentric is to be dispirited, but to the capital S self-centered in the right sense is to be inspired or in spirit. The truly inspired are enlightened and cannot abide in darkness. Okay. All right. So it's talking about, let's see. I think it's talking about the more of an attitude towards our brothers. One that comes from spirit and the one that comes from the ego. So the Bible says that you should go with a brother twice as far as he asks, because when you think about it, if someone comes to you and asks you for a favor, okay, a lot of times you think about that and say, okay, let's see, let me look at my planner. What do I have scheduled? We start thinking in terms of limitation, okay, and um, and therefore we're thinking in terms of scarcity. Like, can I really afford to give this to someone? Okay. And so the decision-making process is coming from the thought system of it's either you or me, which is separation. Okay, so it's the wrong mind. But here, what it's saying is you're not going to lose. There's no loss in asking, in supporting your brother, and in going farther than he asks. Okay, because you're actually one self. So coming from the place of knowing that you're one self, what you're giving to your brother, you're giving to yourself. So so that's why it says that devotion to a brother cannot set you back either. It can lead only to mutual progress. So in giving, it is that we know that we have. And it says it certainly does not suggest that you set him back on his journey either. Well, that would be like taking scarcity to the place of competition for resources. So it's saying like, oh my God, he's going to do whatever. Well, I better get my act together and beat him there, because there's not going to be enough for both of us or something like that. And I'm going to take a shortcut, um, something like that. So that would be like, instead of helping him, you're actually going to compete with them for the natural resources that you think are going to, you know, dwindle down. Um, and so, so the result of genuine devotion is inspiration, a word which properly understood is the opposite of fatigued. And so this is how we know if we are in spirit or in the thought system of the ego. And it has to do with fatigue. And I have to tell you that I think yesterday was really, I would say, the first time that I went all day just, doing everything that needed to be done here without fatigue. I mean, for the whole day, usually I have to sit down at some point and I take a little nap. But it was pretty interesting because, and I think what it was that it was just really in the present moment. And I didn't, I sat in the kitchen for hours just clearing stuff. And then I was doing laundry, and then I was, putting laundry out to dry in the sun, and I was decluttering, and I was, so I was kind of doing a number of different things, but it didn't feel fatiguing at all. And so let's see. So to be inspired is to be in the spirit. And I think what that means is that we're just being guided by spirit. And therefore there's no inner conflict. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if there's no inner conflict, then there's no opposition. And if there's no opposition, you're not going to have a sense of fatigue because there's no resistance. There's nothing working against you, yourself.
Yeah, and I think that was really a good awareness to have. Yeah, and just really being in the present moment and not being bogged down with all the gibberish going on
Yeah.
up in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That
Exactly.
is so draining.
It is draining.
Yeah.
Yes, it
So
is.
thank you for
Uh-huh.
that example.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So to be egocentric is to be dispirited. And so, to be so focused in our thinking and our thoughts and, all of that. That's what egocentrism is yes, we have an ego thought system, but do we really need to give it all our attention? Make it the center of our attention. Yeah. So, okay, number 2. Sonia?
You can speak from the spirit or from the ego as you choose. If you speak from spirit, you have chosen to, quote, be still and know that I am God, unquote. These words are inspired because they reflect knowledge. If you speak from the ego, you are disclaiming knowledge instead of affirming it, and are thus dispiriting yourself. Do not embark on useless journeys because they are indeed in vain. The ego may desire them, but spirit cannot embark on them because it is forever unwilling to depart from its foundation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so speaking from the spirit is to be still and know that I am God. And to be in the present moment is to connect with that stillness, which means that the 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 presence, your own presence, um, has an inner awareness of the love that is within, which comes through in that stillness. And so you stay in that awareness, and um, and and that would be the knowing. Um, and that would also be the communication, right? The spirit communicating through us. And that's why the words would be inspired, because they would be spirit guided. And so to speak from the ego is to disclaim the knowledge, because what we're doing is we are going to the thought system of the ego to figure out what to say, because we want to say the right thing, because we don't want to say the wrong thing and hurt someone's feelings, or we don't, we're always concerned about the image, the self-image, and how what we say is going to reflect back on that self-image. Um, and we don't want to be judged, we don't want to be criticized, so it's all kind of protecting the self. And it's calling that a useless journey. Okay, because in the end, the self-image is not real, and it doesn't last either. It's not really. It takes a lot of effort to try to stay consistent with an image, because it's based on lies, and ultimately, the lies come through. People see through the lies. So you may as well just be authentic and just be yourself, and not, do your best to like have people like you, or have people approve of you, or try to fit in because you're afraid you're going to be rejected or something like that. But of course, the ego desires them, because that's how we make that separate self seem real. But what will happen is that we will then not listen to the spirit. We will kind of put the spirit in the background, and not be the guide. So it's a little bit like letting the past, you were talking about all the past memories, Connie. So it's kind of like letting all of those past things in our thinking take the wheel of the bus, and be the driver. So, okay. It reminds me of that. There's a really funny book called Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. It's a children's book.
Good book. I love that book when I was young.
It's so hilarious. If you read that book, the pigeon would be just like the ego.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. So,
So cute.
yeah. Okay. So number 3, Connie.
Okay. The journey to the cross should be the last quote unquote useless journey. Do not dwell upon it, but dismiss it as accomplished. If you can accept it as your own last useless journey, you are also free to join my resurrection. Until you do so, your life is indeed wasted. It merely reenacts the separation, the loss of power, the futile attempts of the ego at reparation, and finally the crucifixion of the body or death. Such repetitions are endless until they are voluntarily given up.
Mm-hmm.
Do not make the pathetic error of, quote, clinging to the old rugged cross, end of quote.
Yeah.
The only message of the crucifixion is that you can overcome the cross. Until then, you are free to crucify yourself as often as you choose. This is not the gospel I intended to offer you. We have another journey to undertake, and if you will read these lessons carefully, they will help prepare you to undertake it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what it's basically saying is that the ego thought system ends up in suffering, ultimately, for all the pleasure and the specialness that we think we can get from it. Ultimately, it's like a cross. And, that journey has already been done. And therefore we don't have to keep repeating it. It's over and done with. And
Oh.
unless we want to see, unless we want to quote, cling to the old rugged cross, which a lot of us do, because we see value in suffering. Yeah. Yeah. So that all of that has been accomplished. We are with Christ resurrected. But we are free to join his resurrection. Or we can, kind of just waste our life with the ego here. Because the experiences that we will have will just be reenactments of that separation, of the loss of power, of the of trying to regain that power, and finally, crucifixion, the pain, the suffering of the body, and the death. And that's what I was saying about the past grievances that we're holding as memories, that they're just going to keep coming up and repeating, because they're not healed. And so anything that's not healed will be recycled. In number 6, such repetitions are endless until they are voluntarily given up. And that all that means is that we have to decide for forgiveness rather than for the grievance. And that's the miracle. That's choosing the miracle. Yeah. And recognizing that, all of that is just a fantasy that we made up to make separation real, because we want to hold on to our separate self-identity, and not, what's the word? Hold on to our independence, our self-sufficiency, our masculinity, whatever it is that we are, there's I don't want to make fun, but there's a word in Mexico that's it's a swear word. I'm not going to say it, but it's used to denote, it's made into a positive, as someone that is in charge and in control of their life, and self-created and self-made and tough, and the whole thing. It's a bravado kind of, but it's not just for men, it's for women too. So it's yeah, but all of that takes a toll, and it has a price. And number 7 calls it a pathetic error, of making ourselves, of crucifying ourselves and putting us, high on the cross, just to believe that we are superior, and to justify attack through our suffering. So it's kind of a contradiction, because you cling to the old rugged cross to make yourself a victim, so that you can then be justified in attacking others for victimizing you. Yeah, but you still end up suffering, so it's like, where exactly are you winning here? You're not,
Well, it's specialness, right?
Yes, and I have to say that there's a type of specialness that is based on being, being humiliated, and being lowly, and kind of like seeing yourself as
a terrible person.
Well, a terrible person, one, because you're separate from God, and now God is punishing you by making you suffer, in the world, and not giving you what you want, and you have to, live in squalor and scarcity, because God, you're not God's favorite son anymore, that kind of thing. Yeah.
But where did that originate from?
Well, it's the ego. It's in the ego thought system.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's a contradiction because that's what the ego thought system is. That's why my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Okay. It's nonsense. It's all nonsense. Just like, we read in the previous section. It's just nonsense, but we hold on to it. Okay. And because one is we're not really willing to look at it and see that it's nonsense. And also because majority of the collective is clinging to it. And who are we to, take a different path? So, yeah. So the only message of the crucifixion is that you can overcome the cross. So yes, we can overcome suffering, but but Holy Spirit's not going to help us with the error that we want to keep.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I was trying to get across to my husband the other morning, that anyone can try to be helpful, and you can try to convince someone that maybe it would be a change would be of mine would be in their best interest, but that's not how the mind works. We can't convince them just by the force and the truth. Truth is not force. Okay. Truth does not power is not the same thing as force. Just like control is not power, because control can be binary, it can be power and powerlessness. So a lot of people can use powerlessness to actually take advantage of you and overpower you. A lot of the scams that go on often start that way. Okay. So, but the power of God is the power of God. It's not binary. It's just love. And um, and that's kind of what it started with at the very top. You should go with a brother twice as far as he asks. Okay, because you're coming from a place of power, true power, inspiration.
Of the oneself.
Yes, of the oneself.
Yeah,
That my
that's
brother cannot attack me. My brother cannot hurt me by asking me to go with him on this. Now there's one thing though. The course says, yes, join with your brother, but not with the dream. Okay, so it's important to differentiate that. Okay, because a lot of times we tend to think of fitting in to the environment as joining. Okay, that's not really joining, because that's at the level of doing. So then we're just mimicking the behavior of other people to kind of blend in, like at a party. I don't know what to do, so I'm just gonna look around and see what everybody else is doing and do a little role play.
Yep. Nope, know that one too
I
well.
hate parties.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Parties bring out the worst in people.
and that's where people like to go. No, I mean anything, right? Anything can be used by the Holy Spirit for the healing of the mind. So everything, but we have to be asking for that. We have to be, the intention has to be there, the purpose for why we're going to the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that reminds me of, like, if I have a friend or family member ask me like to go somewhere with them, but maybe they ask me to go to a place and do an activity that I don't like, I just don't personally like care for, or really, I'm not really interested in that. But they're super into it. They're like super interested in the subject or whatever it is. Maybe it's like a show or something. I will watch it with them or do that activity with them. But I realize now, like exactly what you were saying, Mom, that it's coming from a place of love, not from,
Mhm.
oh, I
Yeah.
don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I have to be there and support them. And, I can do it without feeling like I'm forced.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Obligated,
Yeah.
yeah.
Obligated. That's the word. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and I
Mhm.
think that's what devotion is. You see, devotion is not obligation. So if I go to church, and if I go to church to pray to God because I feel obligated, okay, I'm going to
Mhm.
be conflicted, inner conflicted, because I'm going to be doing something that I really don't want to go. If I
Mhm.
wasn't obligated, I wouldn't go, but because I'm obligated, okay, I'm forced to go. Okay. And so I'm going to be inner conflicted. Okay. And devotion, there's no conflict in devotion. It's just coming through, the light's coming through, and it's love. And you want to do it. Okay. And this will work also not just for your brother, but for yourself, because um, we can maybe the word is maybe we work against ourselves so much. It's
Mm.
like I can sign up for a semester of college, okay? And then I go to my classes and then I'm like, oh man, that class is boring, oh, I don't want to go to that class, whatever. The teacher is whatever, whatever, whatever.
Mm.
And so then I'm like, well, yeah, but I already signed up for it. I need the unit. So yeah, I have to go. So then what I've just done is I have just split myself. So
Mm.
I made the decision to sign up for the semester. I made the decision to go into those classes. And now I'm saying, oh, excuse me, they don't fit all my criteria. Okay. And they're not special enough, and I'm judging them not good enough. Okay, but I'm still gonna go because I forced myself to get the units or whatever, or I'm not gonna go. I'm just gonna drop them. Either way, I am not giving myself devotion because I'm splitting myself. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. So I might as well. I remember one time in college, I came back from my class and I said, oh man, that's not really a class that I really want to go to. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, but I signed up for this experience. I signed up for the whole college experience here. Why am I trying to, like say, I mean that it's that I don't want to do it now. I kind of signed up for it. I obviously I signed up for it. I do want to do it. Okay. So I might as well just want to go to the class. So it's actually just a decision to
Mm.
it was a decision to not it was a decision to support myself. and and accept and accept my own decision. Oh, that's interesting. I actually accepted my own authority. Isn't that interesting? The authority of my decision making mind
Mm. Mhm.
instead of opposing my own
Mm.
authority.
Mm.
Which is like, what? Why would you oppose your own authority? Go back on your own decisions. I mean, obviously, if it was
Mm.
I mean, it doesn't mean we don't change our decisions. The whole course is about changing our mind. Okay. But it's in recognition that the decision we made was based on lies. So yes, for God's sake, I made a decision based on lies. I'm not stuck, just because I don't know what would be a good just because I made a decision and I ended up in this job where the boss is completely abusive, okay, doesn't mean I stay there. it was a job that based on lies. It was, you know, it presented this self-image, and then I went into it and it was not like that at all. Yeah, I'm going to change my mind. I'm not going to like, oh no, I made the decision. Now I'm stuck here. I just have to suffer. You know, that's kind of what it's trying to say here about the cross.
Yeah.
The whole idea is that the decisions we make are to release us from suffering. And if the conflict is suffering, then we need to release the conflict. And that's what guides the decision of whether to quit or not quit. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm.
So it's not the quitting itself that's bad. Quitting is not an absolute truth, you know, that's bad. Quitting can be good. So that's not the guiding principle. It's, you know, it's the love, you know, is it the loving decision to make for yourself? So yeah. Okay. Okay. So anything else, or we can stop here. That was the introduction. So next time we'll do section 1. Okay. So thank you, everyone. See you next time.